Hey everyone, in this video you're going to learn how to answer questions that give us a graph and then ask us to write an equation in point-slope form. Let's go ahead and let's get started. So here they've given us a graph and they ask us, write the equation of a line in point-slope form. So remember that for point-slope form we need two things. We need a point and we need the slope. And these are two things that we can actually find in any graph that we're given. So to begin, let's go ahead and write out the equation of point-slope form. The equation is y minus y1 equals m, and then in parentheses we have x minus x1. So we're looking for one point and we're looking for the slope. Well, I can actually use this point. They've already went ahead and labeled a point for me, so why not just use that one? So this is actually giving me, if I choose the 2, 4, they are telling me that x1 is 2 and y1 is 4. So there I have my x1 and my y1 that I need for my formula. Now the question is, what's my slope? And to find the slope, we use the equation of rise over run. We must remember that slope is equal to rise over run, where rise represents any movement going up and down, and run represents any movement that goes from left to right. And the way we find this in a graph is we pick 2 points. So again, I'm going to use the point that they already have labeled here, 2, 4, and I'm going to go ahead and choose this other point down here, which is on the x-axis, and this is actually point 4, 0. Okay? That's not too important. What's more important is that you pick a point that's actually what I call a nice point on the graph. A point that's actually easy to count the spaces, that crosses one of your graph's sort of natural intersections. Okay, and all we're doing is we're counting how far is it, or sort of where does this point need to go to reach the other point. How much does this point have to move to get to this spot? So we start with some vertical movement. I see that this point would have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Because it went down, we call that -4. Okay, and that was a rise of -4, or some people call it a fall. If it was a positive number, then it would rise up. If it's a negative number, it sort of falls down. So here we found our rise was -4. So I'm going to go ahead and write that down. -4. How much did it run? Well, let's see how much it went to the right. It goes to the right 2 spaces. And that's what my run is. 2 spaces. Then I see that I can simplify this. -4 divided by 2 is just -2. And there we found our slope. My slope is just -2. So now I take this information and I plug it back into my formula. And I get y minus y1, which in this case is 4. So I write 4 equals m, which we just found our slope was -2, times x minus x1, which in this case is 2. And there I have the equation to a line written in point-slope form. Let's go ahead and look at one more example of this. Here I have another graph. Again, just for reference, I'll write my equation up here. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And again, we're looking for 2 things. As always, I'm just going to use the point that they give me. They gave me the point 1, -3. So I'm going to use that as my x1 and y1, where x1 is going to be 1 and y1 will be -3. And again, I'm just going to search for another point on the graph. I'm going to go ahead and choose this point right here because again, it crosses these grid lines rather nicely, which is going to make it easy to count my rise and my run. So again, I write my equation for my slope, which is rise over run. And now we can count the spaces. See how far down it has to go. It goes down 2 spaces. Okay, so I'll have negative 2 over, how much did this run? 1, 2, 3. 3 spaces. So my slope ends up being negative 2 over 3. And once again, we just take our point and our slope and we plug it into the point slope formula, which is y minus y1 in this case. Again, that's negative 3. So I'm going to write negative 3 equals m, which is a negative 2/3, times x minus, here I have x1 is 1, so I plug in 1. And now we can clean this up a bit. I will say that a common mistake some people make is that they forget to write their negative signs. They'll do something like this where they say, oh, y1's negative 3. I already have a negative sign here. That means I can just put 3. There's a negative 3. Be very cautious about that, because you'll see that when we have an extra negative, it actually changes what our answer is. This double negative turns into a positive. So we know that our real answer is y plus 3 equals negative 2/3 times x minus 1. And that becomes equation of a line in point slope form. So hopefully now you understand how we could go from a line that's already graphed to writing the equation of that line in point slope form. Again, all we have to do is we have to look at that graph and we have to find what point we're going to use, which most of the time they'll label one for you, just use that one. And then you have to find the slope. So then we have to select another point and count the rise and the run and put that into our slope equation. Then we just take those two values and we plug them into the formula. Watch this next video. That's going to be on how we can use 2 points to do the same. Instead of being given a graph, we're going to use 2 points to help us find the slope, and then how we can convert all that information into the equation of a line in point slope form. As always, thanks for watching.